Welcome back to a best of 5 series of top level StarCraft 2. What I've got for you today is a Protoss versus Terran, where in game number 1 we find ourselves on Oceanborn. Now this is going to be a series between the highest ranked Protoss in the world going up against the highest ranked Terran, so we should be in for an absolute banger of a series. Now spotting right here in the top left hand corner in game number 1, playing with the red Protoss probes, we have none other than MaxPax and his opponent in the far bottom right, joined by the little polar bear on the main command center. We have the world champion of StarCraft 2, and he goes by the name of Clem. Clem going up against MaxPax. This is a classic rivalry, although over the last couple of months, I feel like it's slowed down a little bit. We used to see these two play against each other all the freaking time. Literally every single ESL Open Cup that we had, every weekly that we had. Yeah, we used to see these two play against each other every week, but so far, I guess with the ESL weeklies currently not going on, and we don't really know exactly if they're coming back or what's going to be happening as far as that goes. Anyways, the weeklies are a little up in the air. There's a lot of other tournaments that are trying to take those slots instead. But anyways, these two, they haven't been playing against each other nearly as often as I personally would have liked to. Now, another thing I would have liked to do is turn on my health bars. Because I'm a professional commentator, I always prepare these things in advance. But sometimes, I think I'm actually 2 for 2 right now. I'm pretty sure in my most recent cast, I also forgot turning on the health bars. Maybe I can do 3 for 3. That'd be kind of sick. Maybe next time around, we will also accidentally forget to turn those on. I've had some people ask why sometimes my health bars are off. Usually whenever I make the YouTube video thumbnails, I turn off the health bars, I turn off the worker status effect, and I turn off any of the flying unit selectors, the flyer helpers, just to make the screenshot as clean as possible. So usually I make a thumbnail every day after I cast the games, and then I, sometimes forget to turn the health bars back on. I usually just Alt F4 out of the game and I'm out of here as soon as I get my nice looking screenshot, but anyways, sometimes because of that, I accidentally don't have them on. And with sometimes, I mean, well, back to back apparently. Alrighty, now these two, they don't really play, usually at least, something all too aggressive very early on. We don't really see a ton of proxies from either Clem or MaxPax, but when they play against each other, they get very aggressive. So like I said, they've played against each other dozens of times this year, and they play their own little meta. Usually, it seems like Clem can just outplay the opponents he goes up against, and the same can be said for MaxPax. They are just simply better than the vast majority of the competition, so they don't really have to be as active. But when they play against each other, it is just constant aggression, and usually quite quick games. We see a lot of, like, multitasking and a lot of, like, very specialized micro. To say, for example, a lot of stalker control from MaxPax. Even though he doesn't really favor that necessarily every single game against Terran. Across the board, he does it a ton against Clem, because I guess when you know that your best chances to win are with hyper specialized builds, you end up playing them more frequently as well. Now already we have a multiples of Reapers here, a little bit uncommon against Protoss to go for more than just a single Reaper. You can see that Clem is putting in a bit of damage, but it's not a ton. Can he get one more snipe? Okay. Ooh, the probes are hiding inside of the gas. He wanted to try and target that one down. I don't think this is actually the greatest of traits right now, though, for Protoss, or for Terran, rather. It's okay for Protoss to lose a handful of those workers, because only 3 of them is quite acceptable. Now, already, the next line of attack is coming up. It's going to be a Widowmine drop. Again, not really something that's necessarily going to win you the game against somebody like MaxPax, but maybe it can accumulate, right? I mean, maybe it can get more damage done, throughout the game. And you really need to try and just be as aggressive as you possibly can be, just to get little advantages here and there. And you know what? Sometimes with a Widowmine drop, you can obtain the victory, just straight up. Doesn't really happen too much anymore these days. As you can see, there's already a couple of stalkers waiting. Late pool, late pool. Still lovely crisis management though. So you saw that little bit of micro there? Looks easy. Looks very easy. However, when you give it a try, the odds of you accidentally clumping up the probes together and sending those to their deaths instead, they're not 0. He decided that apparently the best trade he was going to get there was a stalker and then also 1 probe. But you have to make that decision, and you don't have a lot of time. You have to make a decision to actually sacrifice one of those stalkers, but you don't have a lot of time to actually make that call. Alrighty, so skill checks left, right, and center so far. But across the board, this is looking like a bit of a macro game. We've got ourselves a lot of production though on 2 bases here for Clem, so he's certainly looking to go across the map here when the Stimpack upgrade finishes up, but that is still quite a long time ago, or quite a long time away here. We do have another Raven now going across. This is obviously a blink opener, so there's no Stargate with this. Instead, we've got ourselves a nice little Robo Bay on the back of this, so this will be some quick Colossus. But it means that the Raven has free reign of the map. Yep. A little bit of damage being done. 2 probes, 3 probes, a whole lot of lost mining too. We did have the Stalkers trying to go into the main base as well. Looks like they found a bit of an angle. But they'll probably be forced to blink out. Yep. An eye for an eye. 3 probes for 3 SCVs. How very biblical of these two. Alright, so it's gonna be arranged for the Colossus on the back of this. And then the holy trinity of Terran upgrades here. We've got ourselves the Stimpack, together with the combat shields, and then also the +1 infantry attacks. In the meantime, the Stalkers are trying to be a little bit aggressive here at the front. They're trying to get a little bit of work done. But the siege tanks at this point are positioned in such a way that, well, Clem is not really going to be taking any additional damage. One big thing to note, though, is that Mr. Terran here is still only on 2 command centers. And when you are still only on 2 CC, 6.5 minutes into the game, you need to get something done. If Clem waits too long, however, and say, for example, both the charge as well as the ranged upgrade for the Colossus finishes up, I mean, that is going to make life really, really comfortable for MaxPax. MaxPax is going to have a ton of production at that point, but at this moment in the game, he's only got 29 army supply, and it's not quite as properly upgraded as you would like it to be at this point in time as the Protoss player. So here comes Clem. This army has its work cut out for itself. There is going to be a 3rd command center on the back of this, but this will need to deal some sort of damage. So far, the amount of unit losses on the side of MaxPax is very low. Maybe the observer loss is actually the most significant one. There is another observer over here. Stalkers are trying to see if they can see this incoming attack, and they do find a siege tank. This army seemed to be angled in this direction, so he's trying to go for a push. Nice snipe on the Medevac so far, but the Medevac still lives. He's trying to go for a push where the siege tanks are over there and the bio army can be, well, transported into the natural expansion. MaxPax decides to jump this early. Charge is just about to finish up, and I think this may have been already enough. This tiny little slowdown, it slowed down Clem maybe 10, 15 seconds or so, but I think that's all he really needed. Right now, that Protoss economy is going to kick in. Charge is finished, of course, and that means the Zealots are going to, they're going to go after the siege tanks here. Brilliant defense right here by MaxPax. And then suddenly this game becomes a whole lot more comfortable. 3rd command center is done, but we're also going to see a 4th Nexus immediately on the back of this. Clem really didn't get any real damage in. Although this attack is not yet over, he recognizes that he needs to do something. And you know what? He may still get some. No cancel. That's 400 minerals down the drain right there for MaxiPax. And that may make this game actually a whole lot more playable for Clem. It's all about momentum in this matchup, right? So when you start getting little advantages, usually you can grow them to much larger advantages over time. And Clem, a little bit behind with that attack on 2 bases, not really working out all too well. He's now finding himself in a much more comfortable position. Ghost Academy on the back of this. 4th Nexus, attempt number 2. Okay. Zealots are going to try and see if they can make their way over here to the bottom. Raven once more coming in. That's 4 of those auto turrets dropped down, but the Raven sacrificed itself. So it looks to me, yep, like this will be the last of that Raven aggression, and I think Max will be quite happy sacrificing a couple of probes for that. Well, this might become a little bit of an awkward moment with both of the sneaky dropships finding each other. Medevacs are accidentally boosting into a prism. It's gonna work out, though, for the Terran player, because he's going to have units nearby to deal with those couple of zealots. There's already a few Vikings available too. Do we still have time to recall this bad boy? He's probably going to try, but the Vikings... Okay, never mind. He may not have the energy for it. The Vikings are distracted though, so at least they're not working on the Colossus at this point. Maybe the push right here at the front for MaxPax is going to be able to achieve something. Main problem is that any reinforcements with this attack, well, usually they come from the Prism, but the Prism just got killed. So reinforcements would have to come in from the other side of the map. It means that Max is not likely to fully commit to this attack, and Clem knows it. He's got a good understanding as to how many robo units there are going to be available at this point in time. Second robo facility, however, was built during all of this, and while the ghosts are being produced, we also have the disruptors coming up. Medevac trying to go to the top of the map. Zealot run by here. Attempted to go after a fourth command center. Yeah, you can see that these guys are very in sync with what the opponent should be able to have at this point in time. So MaxPax is going to move away out of that position. This observer is actually really lovely positioned here for Max. The fact that he knows exactly what's happening here is huge. A probe sacrificed itself to give the heads up about this medevac drop. And I think that, yeah, the medevac is not going to be able to pick up those marines. So they're going to be floating as corpses to the surface of Oceanborn. Fourth command center, though, at this point goes down. MaxPax is maxed out. He's MaxPaxed out, but he doesn't yet have a fifth. So Terran is trying to get a fourth base into a planetary fortress. A fifth base starts up. Usually in this matchup, Protoss is a base ahead. Does he have the army to maybe get critical damage done, though? Because at this point, his economy obviously has been quite nice. There goes a Colossus. Vikings putting in the work. Good dodge as well against those Novas. Zealot run by over here. Yeah, these guys are playing some fast StarCraft. You love to see it. Okay, more Novas, more Novas! Ooh, quite a few ghosts caught in that one. Bit of a distraction again with those zealots on the left side of the screen. We have a Dark Shrine on the back of this as well for the Protoss player, but it looks like all of the Colossus at this point are gone. Zealot gets caught right there in that Nova, but there's still enough Zealots on the back of this too. A few more end up going down there. Some of those Novas actually dealing more friendly fire than they're killing Terran units. So Clem will take those trades any day of the week. +2/+2 is on the horizon right here for Terran. That's a very significant power spike. At this point though, MaxPax is trying to see if he can just crush the Terran under all of this pressure. With all of the Colossi gone though, the Vikings can now land on the ground and they can continue their aggression like that. They deal a lot of damage to mechanical, which just so happens to be a lot of these Protoss units. Looks like the fifth Nexus at this point is done. Another skill check. But neither player really achieving a whole lot. Maybe this medevac drop is gonna go wrong, but nope. Clem sees it coming in. He notices the movement right there on those stalkers and he decides to return the army. Dark Templar at this point are also available. The Zealots have been annoying to Clem. Dark Templar are going to be significantly more so annoying. And obviously, whilst you're looking at your bases, right? Say you're trying to micro a group of Marines and Marauders to clean up a bunch of Dark Templar and Zealots, maybe those Novas can accidentally clip your entire force. Liberators coming up, though. Liberators, the perfect anti-ground unit for Terran. Preferably, you get the Liberator ranged upgrade too. That one's in the Fusion Core. Clem doesn't yet have that structure done. He doesn't really have a ton of money yet. Big group of Marine Marauder Ghosts going up north. They will find a base before it ever got planted, so no significant losses right there for Clem, or for MaxPax rather. Nothing all too significant yet for Clem either though, but maybe these medevacs will be in a bit of a spot. Okay, not enough room inside of the plane. So they will also get shut down. Dark Templar now in the far bottom left. There's the Fusion Core coming up. +3/+3 has been fired up by the Terran player, and in the meantime on the other side of the map, the Double Forge is also researching for quite a while. That's +3/+2 together with Shadow Strike. That is going to be the Dark Templar Blink upgrade that is now done. So these DTs in the bottom left-hand corner can suddenly make little teleportation jumps. Stargate coming up for MaxPax 2. Curious to see if this will just be for a mothership, or if he's actually planning... He did not quite re-rally those probes properly. If he's actually planning on making a transition towards Tempest. Additional command centers are cooking up. The Iron Bank is building. One Dark Templar here, trying to just get whatever kill it can get. Does he reveal the blink? He does not reveal the blink. Medevac drop over here. Not enough room for that ghost. Yeah, and so far you can see that these guys are at each other's throats, right? So there have been about, I want to say 20 moments or so in total in this game where it could have been a win either way. This could be a big moment for Clem. He is trying to get a full surround right over here on this Protoss army, and at this point, MaxPax does not have an easy way to retreat. Those disruptors take a very long time to build. You can't just warp them in like all of those gateway units, and finally, we see a big win right here for one of the players. In the meantime, though, the Dark Templar are going to town. MaxPax says, you may get my army, but I will get your economy. A new Nexus is building. Command Center is being targeted down. Clem does lift it up in time. You know, the game is a little bit funky when landed Vikings are trying to deal with a bunch of those Dark Templar. You can tell, yeah, it's not a good trade for them at all. The DT DPS is way too high. In the meantime, there was an attack up north. I think that Nexus may have gotten cancelled, or, well, at the very least, the pylon ended up going down there. MaxPax did take a lot of damage right there. That fight over here on the ramp for him was unfortunate. He didn't realize that Clem set up a perfect flank. But at the same time, he dealt a lot of damage right there with the Dark Templar ball. And ultimately, it makes the game, well, look at the resources lost here, pretty much dead even. A single Phoenix coming up. I guess it's to try and deal with any of those Liberators. Fair enough. New Colossi are coming. He obviously knows that he just killed all of the Vikings. And with the Vikings down the drain, it means that, well, once more, Colossi are a good option. If it means the Terran is going to go back to Viking production too, it means that they're not making Liberators, which will also suit MaxPax just fine. Clem's command center count, though, is looking nice. He can certainly go ahead and scan wherever he likes. He's going to add on some more. Big push over here. There are quite a few photon cannons set up. I think, by the way, the Stargate was just there to make like one Phoenix. Maybe two Phoenixes to deal with any of those Liberators that are gonna have their ranged upgrade. They already have it. Nah, these are not really fights that Terran can easily win. I mean, the EMPs are good, but as soon as the Zealots charge, that Terran army is gonna... it's gonna need to keep running, because if the Zealots get the surround, it's gonna be very difficult to retreat. Okay, here we go. Well, maybe. Oh! Beautiful connection right there for MaxPax. Grabs quite a few of the ghosts. Liberators, though, coming in clutch. The only counter that MaxPax currently has against Liberators are Stalkers. Now, he's got 23 of them, which is nice. Obviously, the Liberators also can only fight within that circle, so they're not super mobile, I suppose. Takes a while for them to re-siege, but ultimately, if there's enough Liberators, Stalkers are usually not the best counter that you can make as Protoss. It is a very mobile unit, though, so maybe MaxPax can run circles around the Terran army. Goes with those EMPs, make this army very vulnerable, though. All of those shields disappearing. Another Colossus joins the battlefield. We've got 4 Colossi here. Now Disruptors are once more coming up. New command center building. MaxPax has taken a lot of bases around the map. Clem's still more or less stuck in his starting quadrant, but the upcoming bases are gonna have to be more exposed now. There's just simply no other mineral lines available. So it's either this one right over here, or the one over here in the bottom left. MaxPax has got vision of both of them. Sneaky little prism trying to slip between the cracks. It's going to find an angle, but there's plenty of units waiting for exactly that moment. Ah, this is a good series. I can already feel it. These two are extremely evenly matched. More Dark Templar sneaking in once more. Dude, MaxPax is so freaking good. I haven't been casting as many MaxPax games lately because obviously I was casting a lot of the EWC games and just a lot of the big offline tournaments in general. And MaxPax doesn't play in those, but it is refreshing to see Protoss being played this solidly. This is still a good fight, though, for Clem. Clem is always finding these opportunities, right? So his army is running very low. We have one Liberator getting sniped now up north. Killed 5 probes. This particular series is from the big Louis Cup, I think is what I called it, the Louis Cup. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce it. It's a Chinese tournament with $3,000 on the line. So this entire event was played online. Koreans, though, were participating, obviously Chinese players too. A lot of Europeans. These two will obviously be playing on the European server. There's the fleet beacon, by the way, coming up. Additional Stargates also building. So MaxPax is trying to start that one up. Big transition here. A very costly one as well. But at this point, the Liberators are reigning supreme. It looks like MaxPax has decided that he no longer wants to try and fight this Terran army head-on, as he's going for the counterattack. He's giving up on that base, recalled towards the bottom left-hand corner with those probes. Liberators, though, have returned in time, but this Terran army is right now trying to catch up with a very fast-moving Protoss ball. That being said, though, the Liberators are once more in a good position. Planetary Fortress is a great anchor right now. He's trying to get a lucky hit with that Purification Nova. Another Colossus will be floating to the surface. I think that fight did not go the way that MaxPax had it planned. He was trying to catch Clem off guard, and that has been a bit of a theme. He's been trying to outpace the French Terran player a few times already, where he's trying to see if he can maybe just barely come in from an angle that Terran does not quite expect, but Clem has had the perfect answer every single time so far, showing us why he's the world champion of StarCraft. It looks to me like at this point, this game is looking really nice for him, and MaxPax agrees. GG is called. It's Clem who wins game number 1. Game number 2, we find ourselves on Amphion. Let's see. Nice macro game in game number 1. Now, it was one of those classic games that these guys enjoy playing. It's just that usually they've already won the game by then. You know, like, we see a lot of short games of Terran versus Protoss from both Clem and MaxPax. But it's because they've already won before that point, accidentally. They may not intend on winning, but hey, sometimes these sort of things happen. Stargate opener this time around right here for MaxPax. Not too surprising. This is a popular map for Phoenix openers in particular. So I'm assuming we're going to be seeing some of that right here from MaxPax. Not necessarily, though. A lot of different options available. Triple CC? No. This is going to be double CC for now right here for Mr. Clem, who will be going into a straight 1-1-1. Will he be going into a third command center shortly after this, or will he be adding on 2 additional barracks instead? Will he be adding on 2 additional factories? I mean, anything's optional. Probably not, though. Although, I'd be here for it. He's gonna go for a Cyclone after making a single Widow Mine there. He did get the snipe on that 1 Adept, which is nice and all, but the main problem with medevac drops on this map is that, well, it's very likely for Protoss to go into Phoenix openers. This is just a popular style to play. This entire left side of the map is currently not accessible until the rocks are down or until, well, the mineral fields are mined out. Flying units, though, can get in there pretty easily, and it looks like that's exactly what Clem decides to do. Already, yeah, look at this. MaxPax catches wind of it. Doesn't mean that it's countered. One of those Phoenixes can't do that much, but he's making more, and he probably will keep making quite a few of them for the foreseeable future. The normal transition from Phoenixes is into Colossi. Quite a few options available, but yeah, Clem does not want to take the chances. He wanted to unload inside of the main base, but decides better of it. Maybe a fight at the front can work out, but this is a bit risky, though. Obviously, he did kill 1 Adept, which is nice and all. Getting another Adept kill at this point would be huge. Okay, he's gonna get 2 more. And that suddenly makes his attack a lot more viable. Main problem is that it could be a one-way trip. No cancel on that battery. But the main problem here is that it could be a one-way trip here. Probe is gonna try and sacrifice itself, but not really working. Yeah, and so far Clem is playing this very, very well. You give him a finger and he will take the whole hand. One little slip up from MaxPax, boom. Clem is ready to, well, pretty much immediately obtain the win. Probes are being sacrificed here, mostly to try and set off the Widow Mine. He doesn't want to give up on one of those Stalkers. He also knows, though, okay, finally he gets it, that obviously he's gonna need, like, either an Observer if he wants to do it otherwise, but that's a bit tricky. At least in the meantime, the Phoenixes are taking care of some of the reinforcing units. Maybe a siege tank would be possible, but there's too many Marines on the ground. Yeah, I do feel like it's an option, but in the meantime, the Phoenixes are putting in quite a bit of work. Keep in mind that this is not a ton of Terran economy. Siege tank has also joined in. Command center, or sorry, the Protoss command center, the gateway, will end up going down here. At this point, though, yeah, with the recall executed, Clem realizes that the Protoss is gonna try and see if he can catch these units on the retreat. Immortal in the mix as well, deals a lot of damage, and here we go. He decides to swoop in and grab as many of those Terran units as possible. Siege tank is not gonna live, Cyclone is gonna go down as well. And suddenly MaxPax is finding himself in a much better position. Robo Bay on the back of this too. Third Nexus also planted down right here. Okay. Clem overstaying is welcome just a tad. But then again, it's difficult to make that call. Enough energy left over too, by the way, on those Phoenixes. It's really tempting when you get into a Terran's mineral line like that to just lift up as many SCVs as possible. But MaxPax decided to save just enough energy to, well, make sure that he could go after the Cyclone and the siege tank and everything else. Really tempting to just rapid fire all of those lifts. But he decided better of it. Okay, so we have the Stimpak upgrade coming up. +1 infantry attacks as well. And the third command center is about halfway done. A little bit less than halfway done right now for Clem. Now the timing here of the command center though is perfectly fine with the timing of the third Nexus. This was by no means a fast third here for MaxPax. So it's not like his economy is that great. Looks like we've got a Templar Archives this time around together with Charge. Generally, Terran will not be rushing out Ghosts as quickly in a game like this, but they will be on the horizon. For now, though, Viking production is the main priority. Vikings are, of course, really, really nice against these Phoenixes, but they're also really good on the Phoenix follow-up, and that is usually Colossi. Now, in this particular instance, this is not actually him going into Colossus. MaxPax is gonna go into what seems to be Archons together with Charge slots instead. It is important here for Clem not to overmake Vikings, because if you have too many units, well, that are in the air, obviously you can't really make as much use out of them. He still keeps on adding more. We'll probably see at least like 12 or so. One of the Vikings gets picked up as it was trying to join up with the main party. Fourth Nexus, nice and quick here. But here's that upgrade combination finishing up for Clem. Stimpak is already finished. There's an Observer up in the air though, and MaxPax is, yeah, he's got it right-clicked onto one of those tanks. Clem apparently does not quite notice it, or either he hasn't gotten the energy for it. Yeah, okay, now he noticed it. That was just a matter of time. Another siege tank gets picked up. And MaxPax is starting to gather some really nice momentum here. That's the nice thing about Phoenix builds. If you do it well, and that's the big if, but if you control the Phoenix as well, they generally gain value over time. There's a point where they usually just sort of die. At some point, the Marines or the Vikings or whatever will force the cancel on those units, but Phoenixes do gain a lot of value, and it's difficult right now for Clem to really decide to do anything, right? Like, do you send out an army through the middle of the map and risk all of your siege tanks getting lifted? Do you send out a medevac drop? Probably not. So Clem has been pushed into a bit of a corner, but it's a large corner. He's got quite a bit of space to maneuver around in. Fourth command center coming up. The Ghost Academy at this point is done. So we do indeed have a little bit of Ghost production here. These Observers, by the way, are providing just enough value. Gets 5 SCVs, gets out. Prism on the left side of the map. So far, the losses are really looking good on MaxPax's side. Dude, MaxPax is so freaking good at just playing defensively and just playing straight up macro. There's a few Protosses out there that can do this sort of stuff, but in general, we don't really see Protoss being played this cleanly. He's not necessarily doing anything super special, he's just executing really well. Such a shame he doesn't play offline events. But anyways, Zealots are gonna continue onwards. Deal some damage over here. He decides to go for another warp in. That's a little bit ambitious. But there's not really that many units inside of the main base of the Terran, I guess. Phoenixes are swooping in right now too. Those ghosts have to be careful, but I guess there is a missile turret here and the units aren't necessarily that tanky. MaxPax has got a large army here at the front, but I love the little triangle of siege tanks here in the corner. Difficult for Protoss to really do a ground attack here without the Phoenixes lifting those units up. Vikings trying to see if they can chase those Phoenixes away, but the Phoenixes have already disappeared. There's the armory. Double NG bay here, not a bad choice. We should probably have a second forge as well sometime. Oh, we have it. Probably want to start up another upgrade as we do finally have a big engagement here. Command center ends up going down. That was the fourth base here of the Terran player. He immediately starts up another one. Second starport inside of the main base. And barracks 6, 7, and 8. Disruptors have now joined the fray. No storm or anything along those lines, and this is where those Phoenixes usually kind of fizzle out. Good engagement here once again, though, for Clem. Moves away just barely in the nick of time against that Disruptor. Another Disruptor. A little bit ambitious on that one. Snipes that one with ease. In the meantime, there is once more a bit of aggression, but it looks like Terran was all over that as well. Okay. And even though the momentum was starting to roll in favor of MaxPax, Clem shows us that he does not need to be underestimated here. The main problem there is that he lost the command center during all of that. You really don't want to be losing CCs. Lucky for Clem, he actually rebuilt it in the middle of that engagement pretty much immediately. So it is going to finish up again relatively soon, but MaxPax is already mining 5 bases at this point. Clem's still stuck on 3. He needs to secure another expansion very, very soon. The only question is, where is it going to be located? Well, a Zealot will see this coming in from a mile away. Are we going to try and deny this? Dark Shrine coming up. Robo Facility number 3 coming up. We've got ourselves the Gravitic Drive Research, so that's the Warp Prism Speed. Once more, we're looking at playing a bit of a late game. Medevac drop going into the natural expansion right now. Phoenix is not patrolling the right section of the map, so this actually is unscouted. Recall is going to be used. I don't think this is really going to do a lot of damage, but what this is allowing right here for Clem is that securing of the 4th base. So this planetary fortress is going to finish up for sure before any sort of Protoss army can once again move in. And that makes this game a lot more comfortable. 5th command center coming up. 6th command center also building. +2, +2. Well, just about to finish here for the Terran player as well. +1 air weapons. Liberator transition is underway. With the Phoenixes now out of the equation, we can start threatening these Doom drops. There's still 3 of the Phoenixes around, and yeah, this was a little bit overly ambitious. MaxPax predicting this to happen. In the meantime, there's a fight over here too, but the siege tanks are easily, well, defeating the entirety of the Protoss army here. Looks like maybe the army in the main base for Terran was also not really that bad. Where's all of the Protoss army supply? Okay, there's a couple of units over here. He's got 18 Zealots. A lot of the Zealots, though, are on the other side of the map, and that army supply is a little bit inflated. MaxPax has a ton of money in the bank, but only 10 gateways is actually not quite enough for this stage in the game. He actually has no easy way to spend his money right now. That would be awkward. He's got so many resources in the bank, but no easy way to spend it. He decides to collapse on top of his army, but I would have rather seen another like 10 or so units being warped in. Given enough time, he will be able to, of course, spend his resources, and it looks like he will be able to just barely push his army away. In the meantime, that medevac drop, I think this is the drop from the main base, has unloaded over at another Nexus, and even though there's not a lot of firepower left, they will be able to get the job done. Bit more damage being done here, but MaxPax just low on the amount of gateways that he's got. He decides to go for another robo. 4th robo facility in this game. Yeah, he wants to have 3 in total. Fair enough. I'm a bit surprised we haven't seen more gateways. Maybe some of them got killed over here at the bottom of the map, but 10 gateways is, when you have like 6,000 resources in the bank, a little bit risky. Although obviously he knows the game a lot better than me. I don't mind seeing a couple more added in the mix though, because that fight was very close. Ultimately, MaxPax still with a ton of resources in the bank. He's building 2 new Nexi, but I really think he needs to spend his money. Nice Nova. Ooh, 2 nice Novas. And Jimmy. 2 nice Novas and Jimmy. Dark Templar together with some Zealots inside of the main base. Colossus coming up. And in the meantime, the Fusion Core is building here for Clem as well. Clem not going for the double upgrades this time around for the infantry. Really needs to start up that upgrade. Scan over here on the right side of the map reveals where the Terran army needs to be located next. There's the advanced ballistics. Zealots in the natural expansion being cleaned up. Okay. New base building here for Max. 3 Colossus. Building all at the same time. MaxPax still with quite a bit of money in the bank though. He's had a lot of resources in the bank for quite a long time, but at this point it's up to him, yeah, an amount that he can quite quickly spend if he needs to. Another medevac drop, threatening the left side of the map. EMP on the Nexus. We are actually missing the Colossus ranged upgrade. MaxPax? How many? We've got 4 Colossi, but we did not get the ranged upgrade for the Colossi. This is a long game so far. MaxPax didn't rush out any of the quick Colossi. Keep in mind that he went Phoenixes into Archon Zealot, but he hasn't quite gotten that upgrade yet, and it is a very important one. Generally speaking, it's a smooth transition whenever you go from, well, Phoenixes into those Colossi. You have a certain timing in mind for that research, but this is not it right here. Those Colossi just don't have the range. Honestly, though, these fights are looking amazing here for Protoss, or for Terran in the first place. Drop in the main base, push over here at the 5th too. We've got a counterattack, I guess, and Clem is forced to retreat. But some of the Terran reinforcements will be able to make short work of that, I'm sure. Liberator's not sent back home. Instead, he is smelling blood in the water right now. Clem starting to lead this game, yeah, with more than 50 supply. And he is indeed gonna be able to get a win in game number 2. Next up, we find ourselves on Site Delta. I have fast-forwarded through the first minute of the game, but I don't think this is gonna be a proxy barracks. We already have a proxy, well, a proxy really far away from the main base, inside of the main base, for Clem right now building. Instead, we're gonna be going for every ladder hero's favorite strategy. It is going to be an engineering bay block. One of those build orders that's very annoying. Look at MaxPax. He's coming down right now with 400 minerals. He's like, let me build a... can't build it! So instead, what he needs to do is build it in a different location. If you're a ladder player below Grandmaster League, I think this is actually a banger of a build. It's still good at this level too. But obviously, it gets better the lower you go on the ladder. Mostly because it immediately throws the build order for Protoss out of whack. It's minimal investment for Terran, and super annoying for the Protoss to have to deal with. I actually think if you're a ladder Protoss, this is not your best approach. Any base defense right now is a lot more difficult to execute, because when your bases are disconnected like this, I mean, it's annoying as Zerg, right? So we see this all the time from Zerg players against Protoss, where their natural expansion gets blocked. As Zerg, it's annoying, but as Zerg, at least your units move at about a gajillion miles an hour. With Protoss... yeah, you don't really have that speed. Now, it's technically perfectly viable to take your third base as your very first structure, right? As your very first expansion here. It's just realistically also very difficult to execute. So the follow-up right now from Clem is going to try and lean into that. He will go into a bunch of these good old Hellions. The cars are really fast. He knows that MaxPax is going to have to decide, am I going to put my Stalkers over here? Am I going to put my Stalkers over here? Is he going to defend the main base? Is he going to defend the third? Well, Clem has got a lot more fast-paced units right now. And very difficult here. It's very difficult here for MaxPax to decide where to commit his army. It takes 3 Hellions to one-shot a probe. So Clem is gonna wait. Yeah, we're gonna wait for the 4th one too. Cyclone's on the back of this as well, so he is really looking to double down the aggression. Once more, a Phoenix opener has been forced out. Now, I do think though that MaxPax is probably the very best defensive Protoss in the world. He's very clean usually with this sort of defense, but it's delicate. Everything needs to go pretty much perfectly. This Adept over here is by design in that location. We do have a cheeky little shield battery here as well. He knows he needs to primarily just kill 2 of these Hellions. So far, I mean, 2 workers is very acceptable. Retargets, brilliant defense. That was really well managed. It is very easy and very common, even at the professional level, for Protoss to lose half a dozen probes there. Sometimes even more. 2 probes for 3 Hellions. That is a trade that he will be quite happy to make, because as soon as that army is cleaned up, well then suddenly the Phoenixes have full map control. Now the ball is in MaxPax's court. What does he want to do? Well, first off, apparently, finally connect all of these bases together. So he went for a 3rd. This will be scouted as well by Clem. Nice little scout. Does he know the follow-up, though? Is he going to get the vision? Nope. The vision is once more going to be denied, and it will be a Twilight Council here, together with a Forge. So, again, this is not going to be quick Colossi on the back of this. Let's see if the game goes long enough, if MaxPax makes them later, if he will actually get the ranged upgrade this time around, but Clem decides to go for quite a ballsy push. He knows that Protoss will mostly be making Phoenixes at this point in time. It looks like he's managed to somehow, some way bypass his entire army. Yeah, so the Phoenixes will be making their way back home. Clem is looking to see if he can deal a lot of damage with this attack. But he also knows that the longer he waits, the more reinforcements there will be for Protoss. There's enough energy available on those Phoenixes to lift up about half of this Terran army. The question is, when do you pull the trigger to commit? Well, the Nexus is not gonna go down if MaxPax has any say in the matter. I don't think this is gonna work out though for Clem at all. Nah. He's gonna end up losing a lot of these troops. Reinforcing Terran units are showing up. Twilight Council is not really doing anything yet, so no charge on the horizon, no blink, no Archons, none of that. Okay, it started up just now together with the +1. Slow Zealots feel extremely slow, but they do deal enough damage to stationary targets, eventually. Okay. And that right now really takes the winds out of the sail right here, or the sails rather, of Clem. He is forced to sit back, and I don't think he can really do anything right now until the Stimpack research finishes, which, when you're waiting for it, takes about 2.5 years, give or take. Yeah, gets a Phoenix at least. But the +1 coming up right now for the Terran. Combat Shield's coming up too. He's got a nice timing attack here. In the far future. In the far future though, there is only war. Yeah. And MaxPax agrees. He's gone for a 4th Nexus. He's building a lot of gateways. He's gone Templar Archives, and he's also building a proxy. Well, I'm assuming there's going to be a gateway. Yeah, a proxy gateway on the other side of the map. He can use that for a lot of reinforcements. The main problem you can run into here as Terran now is that when you try to secure your 3rd base, Protoss is going to gobble up all of your units. So, right now, this is not really a base that you can attack into, but as soon as Clem tries to secure a 3rd command center, it is very likely MaxPax is going to eye that situation very, very closely. He wants to know exactly. Now, this is cool. Okay, good split. Very nice reaction there. Two Widow Mines hiding right there behind the line of sight right here, behind the refinery. But anyways, as soon as his base is going to be secured, maybe Clem can actually pull it off. He's got enough army here. I think he's fine. Stimpack and combat shields +1, all of it is finishing. Yeah, he will be alright. No real attempt right now by MaxPax to try and slow this down, but it is something that can be quite finicky here. Because obviously, well, you have to decide where your army gets positioned. MaxPax knows the timing though, and he sees the command center. That's all he really needs. He probably wanted to be there for it, but he's not. Storm is done. First time we see Storm in his best of 5 series. Clem, of course, looking to obtain the victory in the series, 3-0. MaxPax, though, looking like he's in a really nice position in this game, but still, we've seen Clem already pull off some ridiculous control. No SimCity set up over here yet. The Widow Mines instead are going to try and make some more difficult attack paths here. There's only a single siege tank. 2 of them ended up going down. An hallucinated Archon. Alright. That is one way to try and trigger some of those mines. Widow Mine goes down, siege tank also shoots. Another Widow Mine over there also gets detonated. Zealot run by, coming in from the left, and that's the first time the High Templar are spotted. Some decent crisis management right there by Clem, but there was only so much he could really do. The damage output of that army is so big. A lot of SCVs are falling, and the Terran army has been traded out. Archon's still alive. It's really just Zealots at this point, though, together with those Archons. I think the SCV losses here are the most significant thing. It's mostly a wash as far as the armies go. But MaxPax already has 5 Nexus at this point. Yeah, and here's the reinforcement showing up. That proxy pylon coming in clutch. MaxPax gets a point on the board. Game number 4. We find ourselves on Alcyone. Lovely games right here, though, from MaxPax. He's getting a little bit overly ambitious with some of the surrounds that he's trying to set up. Like, he's trying to outposition Clem, right? And, many people have tried. Many people have failed. I think it's one of those situations, though, where MaxPax is playing really well. It's just that MaxPax is being anticipated quite nicely by Clem. Clem actually going for what seems to be a bit more of an aggressive strategy this time around. Obviously, he's leading the series, so he's got a bit of wiggle room. So let's see. MaxPax never really skipping the probe scout, though. Or at least, not very often. I'm curious to see if he's gonna go for any changes to his strategy as well, right? So he's been going pretty much every single game I've seen him play lately. He pretty much always goes either Stargate or Twilight, either Blink or Phoenixes. Sometimes I guess he also mixes in Oracle builds, but very few Robo openers, very few triple gates or anything along those lines. When MaxPax first came up, he was actually a very cheesy player. He's checking. He was actually quite a cheesy player. The original MaxPax build was literally a proxy gateway. The very first MaxPax build order was a proxy gate, but yeah. Not commonly played anymore these days. It wasn't a super cheesy build, though. It was pylon into gateway, so it was pylon, gateway, with the gateway being on the other side of the map. It was like a macro-focused early game aggression. That was back when Terrans were always building their command centers on the low ground. Well, none of that is happening right here. We may very well see a command center in a little bit, but this is a double gas opener right here for Clem. We'll be following up this aggression with some factory shenanigans too. Nice SCV micro there. Pops it inside of the bunker just barely in time. Can we target it? I always love that micro. Okay, he was not gonna fall for that trick again. The main problem is that one Reaper doesn't deal that much damage. The follow-up actually here from Clem. Ooh, this surprises me a little bit. Is he gonna go maybe a Cyclone on the back of this as well? Well, so far not the case, but he wanted to go for just a little bit of Reaper shenanigans and then fake a bit of a bunker rush. The follow-up is actually going to be Marauders. There's the Twilight Council coming up too. This is a very uncommon follow-up to this build because it effectively slows down your Marauder all-in a ton. Technically speaking, it's not very good, but because MaxPax assumes right now that he's quite safe, there's a chance that this actually works out really nicely. Okay, now this is weird. Why would there be a Hellion cycling like that? He should have energy for a recall. He does have energy for a recall. No command center here on the low ground. These Stalkers need to go home ASAP. Yeah, he decides to recall them right now. That gateway is not going to complete the wall off. Better to cancel it. Fair enough. Here's Clem, though, committing to this attack. Shield battery immediately gets targeted down. There's only one gateway at this point. No warp gates done yet. Concussive shells are finished right now for those Marauders. Good target firing, though, so far here by Max. You can always sacrifice a bunch of probes, because this is, for all intents and purposes, like a one command center all-in. I mean, there is a backup command center right now, but yeah, this is not even remotely enough damage to justify it, and that means that we are gonna go to game number 5. And that one will take place on Ghost River. We've had a 2-0 lead for Clem in this series. MaxPax trying to see if we can complete the reverse sweep. It doesn't happen very often, especially not against the very best players in the world. Winning 3 games in a row against Clem is pretty much unheard of. I've been casting Clem win after win after win after win over the last few months. He doesn't really lose a lot of games at this point in time, but maybe MaxPax can get the job done here. Still though, honestly could be either player at this point. I don't think there's a significant advantage for either of these two. Clem is going to check on the other side of the map, see if there's any sort of proxy gates or anything along those lines. Clem really only has been losing to Raynor a couple of times. And then I guess he also has been struggling against Rogue a little bit. But that's also mostly because Rogue is now playing a strategy that is very new, the Mass Overseer style. We'll have to see how good that strategy for Zerg against Terran really is. I'm a big fan of it, I'm not gonna lie. I've been thinking about the Mass Overseer strategy a lot. This is the kind of stuff that I think about when I lay awake in the middle of the night. Are Mass Overseer actually overpowered? Like, by design, right? A unit that is essentially undetectable is pretty overpowered, especially when it can be made in essentially infinite numbers. The very design of the Changeling is pretty flawed. Yeah, it's just that after 14 years of competition, nobody's actually played Mass Overseer, so we don't really see it all too much. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if it is actually quite a flawed strategy, but only time will tell. No Zerg player in this particular series, though. As far as Protoss games go, that Clem has been losing, none of them really come to mind. I'm sure he's lost a couple games against Protoss here and there, maybe a series or two. I wouldn't be surprised if all of them, though, are against MaxPax, because MaxPax really is, in my mind at the very least, the very best Protoss player in the world. Obviously, I'm a big fan of Hero. I think Hero is very good, but Hero is also a bit of a... Hero can be a bit of a hero sometimes, you know? Where he plays phenomenal in the first game, and then he all army hotkeys in game number 2, and you're like, Hero, that was your 3rd War Prism, straight flying through the Terran's main base. What is going on right now? As far as consistency goes, I think MaxPax is a step ahead. Now, as far as offline tournaments go, come on, Max. Come on, Max. One day. What? Maybe one day. It's not gonna happen, but still. Yeah, it's not gonna happen. All right, it will be a blink opener here this time around for Max. A quick double gas here as well for Clem. Not really achieving all too much with it yet, but also not really delaying his expansion that long. This is looking like a nice macro game so far, at the very least. Neither player really committing too much. How many gateways are we going to produce? It will just be... No, it will be 4 gates. Okay. So 4 gate with a robo facility means that MaxPax is going to have a lot of production. In the past, this was very commonly played as an all-in. These days, it's quite common to try and deal damage and build a 3rd Nexus on the back of it. But MaxPax won a lot of games back in the day just playing good old 4-gate Blink Stalker. He usually goes 2 to 3 gateways these days before making a 3rd Nexus. So the fact that he, makes 4 gateways here in total is worth noting. Has Clem seen the additional gates? Not all of them. There's an Adept that managed to sneak into the... Yeah, okay. 2 SCVs going down. That's not the end of the world. Widowmine over here also not detonating that much. Looks like the medevac drop is going to continue onwards over here, though. But there comes the Prism. So this has turned, this 4-gate push, it really has turned into a big skill check. This is the type of stuff, like say you're participating in one of the open signups in an online tournament and you're a Terran player and you're going up against MaxPax in round 1, there's a very good chance he's going to be playing this exact build order. Because if you don't micro perfectly as Terran, you die. That's basically what it comes down to. MaxPax used to win every game with 4-gate Blink. The only problem is that he indirectly trained every single Terran player to be much better at defending this. Because every Protoss player started playing the build. And then, obviously Terran got a ton of practice. He decides to meet this army head on. He knows at this point that Protoss has a lot of gateways. But the juggling is much easier. Ooh, that was too early of an unsiege. Actually, maybe it was on purpose. Yeah. He wanted to warp in again at home, and he actually shuts down the medevac aggression. That means, though, that the aggression over here at the front is delayed by quite a while. Liberator going around the left side of the map. So there's this point where you need to give up on the Stalker aggression. Where you need to build a Nexus. Okay, that point right now apparently is what we're looking at right here. It's very tempting to just stick around and continue making Stalkers and hope for the best. But usually Terran will get sufficient amounts of siege tanks at some point. I love the walling right here from Clem. Still though, a big aggressive Blink. Yeah. Nice pickup control right there as well on that Prism. Only a single Stalker so far has gone down. Another SCV falls. Bunker is not going to finish. Supply depots will also not be wrapping up. Brilliant micro here by Max. That's a lot of SCVs going down. Keep in mind that this is not a quick triple command center opener right here from Clem. Another big Blink forward. Gets one of the siege tanks again. More SCVs are falling on the back of this, but that was a reasonable trade right there for Clem. At the very least, he managed to get rid of a bunch of those Stalkers. Command center itself right now taking quite a beating. Another aggressive Blink forward. I wonder if he's getting a little over-eager, but any Terran counterattack is also leaning into siege tanks. You do need quite a few of those tanks to have like a backbone to your Terran army, so yeah, getting 3 tanks right there for a bunch of Stalkers is not the end of the world. Apparently, we're just going to continue warping in over here. If there are only 2 siege tanks, you have to position them somewhere. Tank in the main base, now in a world of trouble as well. That one will also go down. Stimpack is also quite a juicy target here. Keep in mind, without tanks, that it's difficult, and there's an observer here showing where that siege tank is located. This tech lab is extremely vulnerable. With Stimpack actually getting shut down, I would be very scared for Clem. Liberator gets shut down. Nice multitasking here by Max, who is gonna retreat. He doesn't know how far along that Stimpack upgrade is, and finally, Clem has the energy available to get rid of that observer. In the meantime, though, the 3rd Nexus has finished up, and the good old 4-gate Blink Stalker once more coming in clutch. This is what MaxPax does on his way out with a 4-gate. Yeah, kills 9 SCVs with 4 Stalkers and a Prism. So in total, that's 18 SCVs going down. Finally, a Viking is available, but the Viking a little overexposed. Yep, it's gonna get blinked on. 4 gateways now added into the mix too. Charge coming up on the back of this as well. MaxPax right now just trying to see if he can suffocate the Terran. Okay. Ooh, we're going 9 gateways. I don't like that. We need an even number of gateways. Everybody knows that. Even number only. Anyways, I guess it'll work. Prime numbers are also acceptable. Okay. Looks like micro-wise, Clem at the very least managed to stay alive. The main problem here is that he doesn't have that much on the back of this. A third command center is about halfway done, but if you look at the supply count right now, this game is cruising along very, very nicely here for Max. Yeah, I don't... Oh, yeah, 9 gateways. Yeah, no. Yeah, MaxPax, Look, I'm here for a reverse sweep. I think that would be pretty sick, because we rarely see those at this level. But now that you have made 9 gateways, since it's not an even number and not a prime number, I can only start cheering for Clem. It's only natural. Prism goes into the main base. Ooh, okay, well, that's the beginning of something. MaxPax, though, still with a massive army. And this push, however, here at the front is way too ambitious here from Clem. Yeah, I don't really like him sitting out on the map at all. That was only about, maybe 2/3 or so of his unit, so more siege tanks end up going down. Ranged upgrade for the Colossus. Dark Shrine on the back it is. Yeah, this is a really brilliant game, though, for Max. Other than the Prism going down, this game has been smooth sailing. We've got Blink available again. Just blink. Boop. See? That little move right there. I know that there is at least one Diamond League Protoss player that was very impressed by that and inspired and who's going to give it a try and lose all of their Stalkers against mines. Oh, sorry. What happened? PP, lag, so many lags, yes. I guess we can't do anything about it. Ready? Oh, yikes. All right. Let's play this game with lag now, see how it goes. Who benefits? In this situation, if the servers were being a little stuttery, who benefits that the most? I would probably imagine MaxPax with this particular army. Because this is very much so an A-movie army. Then again, he's already got a massive advantage in this game. No siege tanks, man. The no siege tanks here is what makes this a bit tricky. Now, Clem does have a bit of a flank coming in. In the meantime, we also have a big warp in inside of the natural expansion. Command center in a bit of trouble. I like the retreating path right here, though, for MaxPax, but this flank for Terran is still going to work out, but apparently there's too many SCV losses in the natural expansion, and no way for Clem to get rid of all of it. Honestly, a really well-played series here by MaxPax. In game number 2, in game number 1, he barely got outplayed, but he played extremely well. I think overall, yeah. He just played better here than Clem, and that is not something I get to say very often in 2024. GG's.